Hello everybody and welcome back to Elderberry Sprout. So today I'm going to show you how I make my wax seals and some sealing wax. There are a couple of different systems you can use to make sealing wax and wax seals themselves. Let's start with the wax recipe. So to start off, I use crayons cut up into about half-inch chunks, and I mix 2 chunks of crayon with 1 equally sized chunk of glue stick. I store them all in this Herbalife container. You can see I have many colors. Having a great color selection like this can be really useful when trying to make specific, maybe more dirty or grungy colors. I also have some sticks of mass-produced sealing wax. This type of wax can go through the mailing system, and the recipe I'm using unfortunately cannot. So I just put my mail inside of a padded envelope to keep it safe. Now for my sealing kit. So the first item I have is an old candle holder that I turned upside down and put a candle underneath so that it can act as a spoon rest when I'm heating up my wax. The spoon I use is an old soup spoon. This gives it a nice deep capacity so I can put a lot of wax in there. I could do a couple of seals at a time if I wanted to. And when I'm pouring my seals, I pour them onto this granite slab. I got this granite sample secondhand, and it works great for this purpose. It helps cool down the wax a lot faster. I like to use beeswax candles to heat up my wax because it has a nice consistent and pretty hot heat. They also burn for a really long time. So now starting with my mix, I just use the existing color that was already in my spoon and add more color to it. So I had kind of a light purple. I'm turning this next batch into a dark purple color. So I had 2 pieces of crayon to 1 piece of glue stick. So you can see that the crayons melt first. They have a lower melting point. And if you leave the spoon on the heat for a little bit longer, you'll see that the glue stick ends up smoking a teensy bit. It's at this point that I remove it from the heat and use the existing heat within the wax pool to melt the rest of the glue stick chunk. And I'm just mixing this with a bent paper clip. You can see once the glue stick starts to melt, it makes the whole liquid a lot thicker and gloopy. It's kind of unfortunate that I have to use glue sticks here. And I'm experimenting with a new recipe that's a little bit more sustainable than just melting straight up plastic into the wax. Once it's all combined, that's when we're ready to pour the seal. So I just put my desired amount down, wait for a second or two, and then add my seal. I generally have a little bit left over in the spoons. I keep some random coins around to throw in these little puddles. The nice thing about having these little chunks left over is that you can remelt them later and you know that the ratio of crayon to glue stick is going to be proper. It makes it a lot easier down the road to just grab one of these and throw it in the spoon. So this seal cooled a little bit fast, so it's a little bit textured on the top, but it still turned out pretty well. Now for making our own stamps. Admiring the manufactured one, you can see that there's a threaded handle that the bottom fits onto. If you had a metal shop, I'm sure you'd be able to fabricate these on your own. Unfortunately, I do not have a metal shop, therefore I have to make them in a different way. So to start off, I've made rubber stamps in the past, so I'm using some existing rubber stamp making material. You could also use an eraser for this. It might not hold up quite as well though. For the size of the base, I'm tracing a cork. This is the cork I'm going to be adhering my stamp to. So it's a good way to get a matching size. And now I need to come up with my design. I was originally thinking of doing circles, kind of like a flower of life or a seed of life type pattern, but circles are pretty hard to carve into stamp material, especially if you want to be accurate. So after erasing with a basic eraser, I decided to do a Metatron's cube pattern. I'm really connected to this pattern, so I think it's going to be a great seal. Plus, the straight lines are going to be easy to carve. I'll link to the video that taught me how to carve rubber stamps. It's a very particular, detailed, precision system. While carving, you have to use a very sharp tool and get really close to it, so I carved the rest off of camera. And now let's test them out. I think it's a good idea to test your seals before you adhere them to a handle. This way you're not storing a whole bunch of seals you don't actually like. I made this gold color by adding just 2 pure chunks of gold crayon. Adding this gold crayon to other colors, more gem tones, adds a shimmery and iridescent magical effect to it. Due to the nature of this rubber, it's a little bit bendy, and since I did very tiny little cuts, a couple of chunks popped out. I think overall it still made a really good pattern though. There's a couple of triangles where it should be empty. I think the pattern's still clear though. Now that I cleaned out some of the loose chunks, I want to remelt it and see what it looks like. The cool thing about using stamp making material is that in theory I can use this as an actual stamp as well. It doesn't have to be for wax seals. I can just ink it up on a stamp pad and use it on paper. I always try to place my seals in the middle of the wax, but sometimes I'm a little bit off. I left a ring on this particular stamp around the outside. I should have left the ring a little bit wider, because as you can see here, it started to tear. And that's on me cutting my lines a little bit too deep. I'm still getting the hang of that. Stamps do look a little bit more official when they have a ring surrounding them, so I'll definitely try making a thicker ring around the outside of the next stamp I carve. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that pattern. And after removing the ring around the outside, this is the stamp we're left with. Now adhering it to the cork. I would just want to flatten out this edge. So I'm using a razor knife to cut off the existing pattern that was on the other side of the stamp material. Of course, exercise extreme caution when using a razor knife in this way. And I'm going to be using a Fabri-Tac silicone-based adhesive to secure this to the cork, so the surface doesn't need to be completely flat. So a couple of bumps and imperfections are okay. These are the other seal stamps I came up with. This one is, I believe it's a Thai coin that I just put on a normal old wine cork. I can put another on the back here, which is pretty cool. This is kind of a coat of arms type coin. Again, I can put one on the back of that cork as well. I also carved myself a heart seal. This one turned out really well. It's a little bit larger than the other, so I like the size. And here's our Metatron's cube seal. On the other side of this, I put a coin that has a crown and a plant in it. I love that. A 1 pound coin. This is a great way to use your coin collection, especially since the silicone glue won't affect the coin in any negative or adverse way. On this cork, I adhered an angel coin and a coin with some flowers on it. Some of these are a little bit deeper patterns than others, so they show up a little better than other ones do. Now this coin has a boat on it. I feel like it's not quite recessed enough to show a super strong pattern, but I figured if I could get a pirate style seal, that would be pretty awesome. So it was worth the experimentation. I adhered this coin to a stick I found outside. Let's test these seals. Because there's a couple different styles, we'll get to see which ones are most successful. So to start off, I remelted the gold that was already in my spoon. Added 1 chunk of orange and 1 chunk of brown. And this gave me a nice kind of pumpkin-y, rusty color. I really like this color. Because I like the color so much, I wanted to test my Metatron's cube seal in this. Now to the orange, I'm adding a red and a brown as well, to get a nice dark reddish traditional sealing color. It's nice to have all these selections of crayon chunks to be able to play with color. I thought the red paired well with a heart, so I used the heart seal. And now I'm just adding 2 chunks of purple to get a nice purple seal. I heated that up a little bit too much, but we'll see how the seals turn out. And now to the purple, adding a blue and a lilac give us this kind of teal-y blue color. Let's see how they turned out. So this heart seal turned out fantastically. You can see it even has a shine from where the rubber was. This is definitely one of my favorites. So here's our boat experiment. Let's see how this turned out. So the wax was a little bit too cold when I poured it, so the texture in the coin didn't really transfer too well. Let's test the Metatron's cube. And here you can see the Metatron's cube lost a couple more triangles. I'll have to be more precise with my cutting next time. Here's that flower coin I like so much. Once again, the cold wax was a little bit too cold. The coat of arms didn't transfer really well, and as can be expected, the traditional seal gives us one of the cleanest looks. I really like this seal with that blue color. It almost has a third eye association with that blue and the eye and the moon. I love it. Surprisingly, this seahorse coin actually transferred its pattern really well, so I think I'll glue that on the back of one of the other corks. Maybe I'll have to send some mermaid mail. Altogether, these are the seals I came up with. I definitely suggest trying the rubber stamp making material to make your own wax seal stamps. If you guys do this craft, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear about your experiences. Thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I hope this inspires you to send some mail to your closest friends. If you like this video, consider liking, and potentially if you want to see more things like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much, you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye!